Hey everybody, happy Thursday, hope you're doing well. Did not catch it in time, that was close. That was close. Alrighty, welcome on in. Thanks for getting that first lab done. I think I've got them scored if you had it in as of last night. I think I'm pretty current up to that. So if you got it in sometime today, don't worry if it doesn't have a score yet. Tuesday and Thursday are the busy days, but I'll work on getting those caught up soon. So we're going to get into our textbook finally this week. Hopefully everything is set up and running. You've got NetBeans installed. I think I only heard from one person who had trouble with it. Given you already had 1500 or 2151, hopefully that was already done and up and running. So should go pretty well. So we're going to talk about intro to web development, specifically with PHP, and then how to make our first PHP application, and then we'll talk about our first project. Next week we'll get into databases. This one is mostly all database talk, not very much PHP, but then chapter 4 is how we then use PHP to talk to the database, and our second project then will pick up from there. So again, the idea with the projects, those are the large assignments. I've been told they're a little vague. That is intentional. It's to help you sort of practice that art of programming where you have to figure out how to solve the problems. I'm not going to say, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you just kind of fill in the blanks. There's not a lot of problem solving at that point. So that's more the idea with the labs. So we've got those weekly labs we're going to do. So every week we'll just do a little bit of practice, kind of repeat some of the things we did in class, just to make sure it's working for you. I've been told this was actually something that students asked for more homework, which kind of confused me a little bit, but that's okay. So essentially you're getting free points for practicing here. So everyone should get the labs done every week. Again, if we were meeting in person, I apologize we're not. This global pandemic has gone on and on and on and on and on, and it's been a little rough. But I did find the appropriate beer for the pandemic. This is Corona Extra, given we're in 2022. So that was fun to find that at the store. Thought it was kind of appropriate. And yes, I'm still drinking coffee. This is the second pot of the day. So if I'm going too fast, please, please, please just shout at me and slow me down. I don't typically get the jitters, but I got this fun little jitter emote. It doesn't jitter on the screen though. I got to figure out how to do that. But I'll drink this throughout the night. I think I've got a little bit left in the pot. I'll have to go downstairs at break and see if I got any left, but definitely want to keep up with this. So again, this being a lab style course, I plan to spend about the first half or so every week talking at you, showing you new tools and techniques and examples, things from the book. And then the second half, maybe a third portion of the course is you having a chance to try it. So those ideas with the labs were generally, if you wanted to stay to the end of class, you'd walk out with points already in your pocket for the lab and it'd just be done. Given we're remote, you can still tackle it tonight. That's fine. I can hop on Discord or hop on Zoom and do some screen sharing if you folks get stuck. Or we also have the option then, if you folks are just tired and burned out and bored and don't want to hear anymore and you don't want to go get a break, that's okay. It's no problem. You're welcome to work on the labs throughout the week. So it's not anything that has to be in tonight, but that is the practice time that we have for that. And then the projects are considered more the homework time. That's outside the 8 hours a week that you're spending on the course doing your reading, doing the quizzes, doing whatever exercises and projects and studying that you normally do come out of that time. So ideally labs are the in-class time portion of it as well. So, and then we'll have quizzes starting this week. So I'm not going to do one quiz per chapter. I'll just do one quiz per week here. So after tonight, I'll post the quiz for chapters 1 and 2, and that'll be due next week. So on chapter 3, it's just a one chapter quiz. When we hit 5, 6, and 7, I'll just pick 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to provide it for the database Marv because the CIS 1200, our Intro to Database Systems course, is not a prereq. So not everyone necessarily has really any experience with databases at all. So I'll walk you through how to create it, and you can just follow along to get up and running. So what I typically do is I'll start a demo project for a given database, and I'll do one piece of it, and then you'll go finish the next pieces. That's how I've typically approached these database-based projects for you folks. So you're seeing me do it one way, and then you just get to go repeat that for the next step, and you add a couple extra things and from there. So anything database related, I'm happy to jump on and help with, get you pointed in the right direction, because again, it wasn't a prereq. So we're going to use it. We're going to make a lot of use of it, which is fantastic, because anything and everything in today's world is interacting with a database. Right? Everything is stored somewhere in a database, all of the data somewhere. So we've got to make sure we understand how to work with those. It's huge. And you can do a lot of really cool things with database-backed applications. All right, so intro to web development with PHP. So you're very familiar with websites, given you're using D2L. But what we're going to do is we are going to fire up XAMPP here. That's our XAMPP control panel. Hopefully you got this installed and we're able to start and hit those starter pages. Let's take a look, see if we can get this started here. So I'm going to start up Apache. It's the only one I need right now. So again, I had to change my port number because port 80 was in use. You might not have, and that's okay. So if you did, great. If you didn't have to, great. Both ways are fine. We just need to know which port you're using. So I'm going to use 5080. If you're on 80, fine. If you changed it, that's cool too. I just want to make sure you can hit the admin page. And this config, never remember that here. So I'm going to change this to 5080 here. And yeah, it complains about saving it, but it actually does save. I don't understand. It's cranky about something. But when I hit admin, it should launch out the page. Here we go. To localhost :5080/dashboard. And this is saying, hey, look, XAMPP got installed here. So we've got Apache, we've got MariaDB, which is essentially MySQL. We've got PHP, we've got Perl. Okay, so that's our main page here. Excuse me, and it's got a bunch of how-tos and FAQs and all sorts of good stuff. But if we can hit this page, we know our web server's working. So remember, the job of a web server is to respond to web requests. So we send it a request and we get back some sort of response. So let me fire up NetBeans here. Maybe. We're getting there, don't worry. We'll get there. Yeah, NetBeans. And I didn't realize, I thought I had loaded the book PowerPoints for you folks here, but I didn't see them in content, so I must have forgotten to upload those for you. So I'm going to go get those real quick. Let me just export all that real quick. Sorry, I'm going to export out this from the last class, and so I can copy it in real quick. To export. Oh, you can't see the screen. Let me flip it over here. Sorry. I'm going to export out the content here. So we want content, and I want to select the sections. Apologies. I want to make sure you get. Some people like the slides, so go for it. I'll provide them here. Generally, I don't like PowerPoint, and I don't use it because I find it terribly boring when people read to me. And I find most people have that same experience. And the other thing is, as soon as a slide goes up on the screen, people tend to start reading it. And it turns out people like to imagine we're really good multitaskers, and we're really actually bad at it. You can't do two things at once, which is really hard to do. So we're not going to try and do two things at once. We're just going to do one thing at once. Come on, export. Oh, did it not? It didn't actually export, did it? I must have clicked the wrong button. What did I click? Content, select, continue. There we go. Yeah, slides, continue. I thought I did the right thing here. Include. Okay, no, I must have. It just finished now. It just took a second. So I'll get these out for you. Let me download this zip. And then I'll go back to our course and I'll go re-upload it. I thought I did that already. That's super weird. We should have had those. So let's go import. Yeah, my bitrate's going all funny. It's been great lately. I haven't had any issues. Sorry, I'm dropping some frames here. Hopefully you can still hear me okay, and it's not too bad. Let's go to download. Let's grab that D2L package. Oh, it's still downloading. Come on. Really? You're still downloading? Oh, there it is. There it is. All right, we got to upload it. This way you'll have the slides. They're for your reference. That way, if you like that sort of a Cliff Notes view, you can take a look at those. Again, the textbook is really useful. It gives you all the examples, but I'm not going to go through the textbook examples because, again, it's really boring when people read to you, and then why would you go read the textbook if I've already read it to you? So that way you'll see my examples, and then you can read the textbook examples and follow along with those. You'll have the labs to practice, and then you'll get the projects for additional practice. So after those 4 times of looking at a topic, hopefully you'll feel relatively comfortable with it, is sort of the idea here. And, you know, additional reading and studying and whatever you're going to do on your own, you know, might even make that 5 or 6 times, depending on what works for you and your learning style. Sorry, let me put my phone here on quiet so it stops dinging every time. Oh, look at that. The European Court rules ad blocking does not constitute a copyright infringement. Okay, I think that makes sense. That's kind of a cool notification, though. It's worthwhile. All right, and let's import all the components. That ought to do it. Let's see if that works. We're almost there. All right, well, okay, NetBeans finally open, so that's good. So I can go back and I'll start up a project here. So I'm going to close this out. And I believe we have a course GitHub repository already. So I'm going to make all of my projects in that course GitHub repository. And that's a public repository, so you're welcome to go look at any of those examples at any time. I don't need to upload anything to D2L because D2L is not a tool that's made for code. It's not a code collaboration tool, and it's awful to have to download files and upload files and look at them all the time. Do I not have it? Winter? Shoot, I don't. Okay, so give me a second. I'll go make one. I thought I had one, but apparently not. Oh, cool. All right, we got the slides uploaded. So I'm going to go to GitHub, grab my repositories. There we go. So now we got the PHP slides and the JSP slides. We'll make a new repository. This is the GitHub Classroom workflow. Makes it so you don't have to do any of this nonsense, which is really nice. It kind of automates a lot of this process for you. So readme, git ignore. We want the Java git ignore. And I like the MIT license for my public repositories. You don't need a license for private ones, and you're welcome to use any one you'd like. But MIT is pretty nice and easy and open, so I'll do that. All right, so now I've got the repository. So just like we did with lab, we're going to go to this code button, say open with GitHub Desktop. And GitHub Desktop is going to say, hey, do you want to clone this repository? Yes, we definitely want to clone. We want to make a copy of this repository on my local computer here, and it's going to put it in my Documents GitHub folder. That's the default. That's fantastic. I like defaults. If you want to change it, go for it. You can put it anywhere you want. Now that I've got this repository, all it is a folder. It's just Git is the source control tool that watches this folder for anything that gets added or changed inside of it. So now I can make my new project. I want a PHP project here, PHP application. What do you mean I don't have the plugins? Oh my goodness, that means is driving me nuts. So if you don't have the plugins, you can download and activate them, or just activate them if you already had them there. They should have come out of box, I thought. Let's see. Let's see if it cooperates. Now there's a couple things about PHP projects that are particular, right? Because we want all of our code and all of the NetBeans stuff in our GitHub repository. Then when we want to run it, we only want the code portions to get deployed to our Apache web server. So if you click on this like config tab and you just want to browse in here, the way that Apache works with PHP files, let's see if that'll load for us here. we get xampp here, right? So it likes to install it c:\xampp. Great. Inside of here is this folder called htdocs. The htdocs folder is where all of the PHP stuff will live. So all of our projects are going to deploy to the htdocs folder so we can access it. Right? That's where we want to go. Remember when we were at dashboard before, when we went to that localhost/dashboard? This is that dashboard page that we were on here. That has all this cool stuff inside of it, and it generally loads up the index file to start here. So index is the default file that our web server will serve here, which is really cool. But we want to put everything inside of htdocs because that's where we want our applications to run from here. So let's see, come on, NetBeans. All right, so now we've got it. So in our sources folder, this is where we want to change this. We don't want to save our project inside of htdocs. That's bad form. It puts more things in there than we need. What we want to do is we want to browse, and we're going to put our project, our sources, inside of our GitHub repository. So I'm going to go find my GitHub folder here, CIS 2454, winter, winter, come on mouse, winter 2022, great. And then we're going to, inside of that, do one more folder. So I'm going to organize things. For all of yours, you should be perfectly fine, but I'm going to do multiple projects in here because I don't want to have a new repository example every week. I'm going to use one repository to keep things a little bit saner here. So I'll call this, how about week 2? And I'll call this project week 2. So I'm going to have the name of the project inside the week 2 folder here. That should be pretty good here. Right, PHP version's great, and encoding's fine here. Go next. Now this is where, which explanation of where you want to put your sources? So for every lab, you're going to pick your lab repository. For the projects, you're going to pick the project repository. They're just folders, right? So you're going to have a bunch of different folders inside of your GitHub folder. You just pick the one that is the project that you're working on. So for project 1, or lab 1, lab 2, on and on and on. We'll pick those correct folders to put ours inside of here. You know, I think I'm actually okay. No, I do want to do. So I'm going to use another folder here because I'm only going to use one repository for the whole semester. That way you don't have to remember 7 different links, 8 different links, 9 different links to go look for all the examples. So everything that I'm doing, I'm going to put in one more level of folder. You're already going to have one folder per assignment because the GitHub repository generates one each for you. So I'm going to put mine inside of a folder called week 2 to make things a little cleaner here for my project. That's all. Now here, we want to run on our local website, running on a local web server. You can do other cool things. You can automatically FTP stuff out to another server. You can run script stuff, some built-in things. We're going to do the local one. And it says, okay, what's the URL? So in here, I need to change this. And sorry, it's a little bit small there on the screen, but it says http://localhost/week2. That's the name of the project. I called it week 2. So we want to change localhost. I need to add the port number. So it's localhost:5080. Again, if you're running on port 80, nothing needs to change. No big deal. So it tells NetBeans, this is the URL I want you to use when you run my project. Then we're going to check this box and say copy files from sources folder to another location. Here now, we're going to say, hey, please go copy over to the xampp htdocs folder, and it's going to put it inside of a folder called week 2. Hey, thanks so much for following along. Glad to have you here. So this copy step here is what makes sure that the sources, all of the PHP code we're going to write, makes it into that htdocs folder. We don't ever have to do anything manually. NetBeans does all the magic for us. It's phenomenal. It's a great tool. It's a little bit flaky, but aside from that, it's a really nice tool that kind of automates a lot of this stuff for us. Okay, that way I can keep all of my code and all of the NetBeans project stuff, all the files in a repository that's made for tracking code, and then just my sources, just the web stuff that we need, makes it into the htdocs folder. It's just a much cleaner process for you here. So we're going to say next. We don't need any frameworks right now. Again, we can talk more about that later. We don't need any composer stuff. We'll go finish. So if we did it right, in your GitHub repository, when you make a new project, it should say, hey, I see a bunch of new stuff. Just right off the bat, like, hey, here's the week 2 folder, NB project. NB project is short for NetBeans project. So anything inside an NB project folder is just stuff that NetBeans cares about. We could care less. Just leave it alone. Let it change. So it's fine to change there. It's almost there. NetBeans is going super slow today. And now I see my project here. And we open up the project. We get source files. When we open up source files, I get an index.php. Now, PHP files are really cool. If you've done any web development, most of this will look identical. Right? This is actual HTML coding here. Nothing special happening. I'm going to get rid of this comment because we don't need it. You're welcome to change that later if you want. Here, the only thing that's different here now, we see there is a open brace question mark PHP, a little comment here, put your code here, and then a question mark closing brace. So this is a PHP code block. So inside of here now, we can put PHP code that will get executed by the Apache web server when someone asks for this page, which is super cool. So what we normally get, so when I went back to this page here, right, this was the index.html page. HTML pages are static, right? The only thing you get is what's inside the file. And if you're not familiar with your browser tools, you got some really cool built-in tools. All the modern browsers have it. Again, I like the new Edge on the Chromium engine or whatever. Firefox is probably better, but I haven't switched or made the jump to switch over yet. But Chrome is spyware. It's just nasty. So you get so many tracking everything everywhere just for using Chrome. And it's a memory hog. I mean, Edgeum's kind of a memory hog too, but I don't even have Chrome installed anymore because I'm just so frustrated with it. But that's just me. You can use whatever you want. I've got weird opinions, and that's okay. So this index.html, if you hit F12 in any modern browser, it's going to say, hey, do you want to open the DevTools? Yes. Open the DevTools, please. One more time. Yep, there it is, F12, and I get my DevTools. Come on, DevTools. Oh my goodness, I lost him. Come on, come on. What? I want my DevTools. Hit F12. Is it my... Okay, it's just being super slow. There we go. Don't need to do any of these. So don't worry about the welcome. There's all sorts of cool things if you want to check out any of this stuff for beginners. Again, Edge gives you all sorts of cool stuff. What we really care about is the sources here, or elements. So lots of different tools here. Elements gives you, hey, this is the HTML code that you can see here. We can actually go and look and see what's here, and you can kind of have some nice ways of looking around it here. There's some JavaScript included in here. Don't worry about that. We're not a JavaScript class. Some other HTML components. And all of this is going to be what's inside that HTML file. It's static, right? When you ask a web server for an HTML file, it says, here you go, and sends it back to you. Let me go find that XAMPP folder again. So C:\XAMPP. And then it was htdocs. And then it was the dashboard page. Excuse me. And then this was the index.html page. So this is the actual static page that the web server returns to you. And let's open with, I'm going to open with VS Code. Visual Studio Code's a great editing tool. Even Notepad is fine, just for like looking at it here. But I want to compare these real quick and show you. The Windows key, if you hold that down and press left or right, will snap a window to the left or right of your screen. And we can see, hey, here's our HTML. So this is the head element. So if you open up the head element, we should see everything that is here. Right? All looks the same here. Pretty cool. This additional style stuff happened. I think that was all the JavaScript is my guess. Not entirely sure, but that's okay. So we see this is the document, right? This is everything we were looking at. So this is a static page. So when you go ask Apache for a static page, just an HTML page, it says, okay, here you go. And it returns that content to you. So you can see that sort of stuff happening as well, which is really fun in the network tab. So you got a lot of cool tabs down here. I'm going to look at network. So right now it's empty. So I'm just going to hit refresh on the page here. And now I'll see, whoa, a bunch of stuff. But essentially, here's the index page. This page was requested. So I requested HTTP localhost 5080 dashboard index PHP. And the response I got back was this. Here's the HTML code that I got back. This is what the web server gave me. The browser's job is to make this look pretty. Right? All the other things that happened here, all these other, so we got some JavaScript files, we got some cascading style sheet files, we got a favicon, and then we got some other stuff happening behind the scenes with JavaScript, looks like. Some status. And why is Facebook trying to do an OAuth? Wow. Well, that's fun. I don't know what that is, but that's weird. So apparently going here made my browser go request out to Facebook for Joey wants cookie data. What? Okay, sure. Yeah, trying to connect to Facebook. What? That's neat. Is there actually something Facebook? Is it when it loads the Facebook link here? I don't actually know what happened here. You know, it's been a little while since I looked at this, and now I'm kind of surprised, but that's okay. So we see all this stuff loaded, image files, like the SVGs, the PNGs, those are image files, a JavaScript file, more JavaScript, right? Cascading style sheets, cool. This JavaScript from Facebook is weird. Where does it even show up? Now I'm curious. So let's open up this index page again. I'm going to open it up in VS Code, and I'm just going to search, see if we can find anything in here. I wonder if that's me or if that's just Edge being cute. So this is worth a quick search real quick. Facebook. Okay, so here's a couple. Oh yeah, right here. This tries to connect to Facebook. Look at that. Why? What is it even doing? Let me make that bigger. Yeah, goes to Facebook, tries to run their stuff. Well, that's fun. That's just the link on Facebook. That's the link on Facebook. All right, so yeah, there's some JavaScript here. That connects to Facebook. What's this app ID? Huh. Wonder if we can look up an app ID. How to get an app ID? How do I look up an app? How do I find the owner of an app ID? Here we go. We don't have the secret, so no, we don't have that. Moved app profile pages. Apps profile page. Here we go. Let's do this. Let's copy that, go to a new page. I'll pop in that app ID, see what we get. I'm real curious now. Let's copy that. Well, I want to know what's happening. What do we get here? Page isn't available. Okay, so maybe that's an old. That doesn't actually work anymore. It's a bummer. We don't have the secret. And we don't get a user ID. Oh well, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I was curious, but that's all right. So a static page. Yeah, choose the PHP application when you start a new NetBeans project. Yep, so file new project. I'm going to go to PHP application. Yep. So this page here then is our index page. And now I don't actually need anything right here inside this code block yet. Now one thing you're going to want to do before you try and run your project, click this little drop down here next to the globe. If you use the default browser, you get the old Internet Explorer crap. Actually, it might be dead. I wonder what it's going to give me. I used to have to change it all the time. That was where I used Windows 11. So on Windows 10, it would launch Internet Explorer, which still existed and was awful. So if you're on Windows 10, definitely go change it to another browser. Looks like we're fine now. So you can change it over to Edge or Firefox if you want. But my default's okay, which is awesome now. So it'll just launch out. So it launches here, my localhost 5080, the week 2 folder / index.php. And I get a response back. So I'm going to hit F12 to check on my dev tools again here. Excuse me. And if we go to sources, elements, I see it's pretty much empty. There's not a whole lot in here, right? There's really nothing in here because we had nothing in our body. All we had was the little head. We can give it a title if we want here. Let's give it a title. How about week 2? I'm going to save that. And now you can hit run again if you want, or with PHP files, you can just refresh them, which is awesome. So if I just come back to my browser and hit refresh, I'm going to see, hey, now we get a title of week 2. Right? In the head element, we see the title. So we're starting to put some PHP code here, which is really cool. So what happens, right, is when you request a PHP file from a web server, the web server is going to go take the PHP file and run the code first. Then it's going to send the response back. And what's cool about that this is called server-side web development. Dented leak. So each of your assignments are going to have a new repository. So if you're just playing around, you're welcome to put it anywhere you want. For every lab, I'll give you a new link to create a GitHub repository using that classroom GitHub workflow. So if you're just kind of playing along, just go for it anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. With stuff you're going to turn in, you want to make the project inside your Git repository. And I'll walk you through it one more time for our first example here for the lab this week. I'll walk you through it again like I did for last time, because this will be new for PHP now. But then for the project, right, you're on your own for that one. And I'll still help you get your point in the right direction, but ideally if you practice that enough times, then hopefully it gets a little easier. All right, so in here then, we can actually do PHP code that gets executed on the web server. So there's two different sides. So when you make a web request, your computer sends the request out to the web server, and the web server sends you something back. Right? We saw it with a static HTML page, you just get the page. With something like a PHP file, the web server actually runs code first to figure out what it's supposed to give you back. And then we'll give you back something, which is super cool. So in my PHP block, I can now start doing some sort of code in here to make it do whatever I want. Anything that I want to do in code, I can have happen. So we use all sorts of cool PHP commands for this. So the basic one is echo. So echo will spit some sort of result back out here. And then I'm going to use single quotes. We'll say hi or hello world in PHP, because everyone's first, and then a semicolon. Everyone's first project in any language should always be hello world, because that was what someone came up with a while ago, and we just have to honor that. That's a wonderful tradition. So we're just going to say echo hello world PHP. So echo says take this text here, which is a string, and spit it out into HTML. So let me save that, and I come back and refresh my page here. And now I get hello world in PHP. And I'll see inside the body tag, I get that string that I had just said, please echo. I don't get the PHP code block. I don't get the word echo, because that code here was executed in the Apache web server. So if I tell it to echo something, it's going to run the code to do that, turn it into HTML, and return it inside of the HTML document, which is really fun. So we can do all sorts of cool dynamic things in code and have it show up as a web page. So Facebook actually was originally a PHP application. I don't know what they use anymore. At one point they had to do some crazy sort of optimization stuff, and it's some monstrosity now. But I mean, it's mostly JavaScript nowadays, but whatever the actual behind the scenes thing is, I don't know. I used to be able to follow that, but they got real complex because they got some really smart people working there. I will say though, just in terms of if you want to find some sort of mission and like fulfillment in your work, they sell ads. It's how you run. So you can change your browser if you want here. You can pick a browser. So I'm on Windows 11, so my IDE's default browser is Edgeium. It's the new Edge. You can change it to Firefox or Chrome if you want, or Edge. I don't recommend Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is just awful. So you just hit run, and it should go launch out to the URL that you told it to, and it's automatically going to add the index.php. Remember, when we set up our project, if you right-click the project and go to Properties, you can look at the run configuration, and it says, hey, what's the URL we want to launch here? And we say, hey, go to localhost, my port number, I had to put in 5080 because I had to change my port number, and then the folder, I called it week 2, because in my sources configuration, we said, hey, save everything here in the GitHub repository, but please copy all the sources to my XAMPP htdocs folder. So we can actually go look at the htdocs folder, and there'll now be a week 2 folder. So inside of week 2, I'll see my index.php file. So this is getting automatically copied every time I save my project. It's copying the sources from the GitHub repository over to htdocs for me. That's the magic there. Hey, thanks so much for following along, Ralpher. Throw that coffee emote out in chat. I think I can just give anyone that. I'll take a look at that later in Twitch, because that's part of the fun, is emotes, of course. I gotta think of other fun ones too, because I had an artist do this one for me, along with like the subscription badges. It was cool. See the link, like the URL? That's this one over here. So it's localhost 5080 week 2 / index.php, because it launches out my PHP project. So that's in the run configuration. So you say, hey, go here. Localhost, and then usually it defaults to the name of the project, and we like that. Yep, if you're having trouble with it, I'm happy to hop on some screen sharing stuff later. We can get you up and running. So it's usually pretty quick, and once we've done it once, it's pretty easy to copy after that. All right, and you can always change those project properties later if you didn't get it set up when you first did it. Nope, so the only connection to GitHub is that I created it inside my GitHub repository folder. So the GitHub desktop client says, oh, hey, this folder called CIS 2454 winter 2022, it's got some new stuff in it. So I can see my PHP file, and anything in NB projects, you just leave alone, it's fine. So I can make a commit here, and I'll say this is hello world in PHP. I'll make a commit. Remember, a commit is just a snapshot. It's this point in time, what the files look like inside this folder, and then I'm going to push that out to the cloud. Hey, thanks for following along. Glad to have you here. Yep, so for every assignment you folks get, you'll get that link to create a new repository for you, just like you did for that first lab. Right, so like for lab 0, you click that GitHub Classroom link. Let me go edit this real quick. So I'll give you a link for GitHub Classrooms. Right? When you click that link, it's going to say, oh, hey, do you want to accept the assignment and make a repository for you? If you've already accepted the assignment, it'll say, good news, here's your repository. You can click that link. So this automatically creates a private repository for you folks that you have access to and I have access to, which is perfect, because if you make a public repository, everyone has access to it. And if you're doing your homework solutions in a public repository, and one of your classmates copies off of you, I'm going to think some of you cheated, right? Because they copied your work. So use these private repositories that get automatically created for you. I'll make one for every lab, one for every project, and then they'll just be different folders in your GitHub directory. It works out pretty well. It's going to take a little while to get used to the workflow. That's okay. There's no problem, and I'll help you through it to get you up and running. But that's the idea there. Back to the assignment. So for anything you want to do just for playing around in practice, if you don't want it to get into GitHub, just put it anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. You can just do anything with it. If you're using the virtual machines, those will go away, right? Because it's not going to save any of your stuff. So you'll probably want to put it in a repository somewhere. I'm happy to show you how you can make your own repository if you want, just for your own stuff, or you're welcome to just dump anything you want into Lab 0. Like after I've seen your little introduction file, I don't care what goes in Lab 0. So if you'd like to just keep playing along and use the GitHub repository so you don't lose any of your work on the virtual machines, or even just as a backup for your personal machine, go ahead and dump it all in Lab 0. You're welcome to do that. There's no issues there, okay? So again, this is the server-side web development. That's what we're focusing on this class. The very second to last week, before we do our presentations, we'll talk a little bit about JavaScript, which is client-side. So JavaScript runs on the client's computer, whoever's using the web browser. It runs in the browser, not the server, where PHP, and later when we get to Java and the JSP and servlets and things, run on the server side, the web server side. So there's a definite distinction between the two, client-side versus server-side. So this is all about server-side programming. So if we wanted to, we could make more pages. I can say, hey, I want a new PHP file. Actually, let me do a PHP web page because it gives me a couple more things. A PHP web page here. We'll call this, I don't know, page 2. Why not? And now I get page2.php. And in here, I'm just going to put echo. And now in PHP, you can use single quotes or double quotes. They're essentially interchangeable. We'll get to when they're not in a little bit here. So we'll say page 2 here. And a semicolon. And back to just regular web development. I don't need anything in PHP here. I can add a link here. So a link is an a href, and we're going to say, hey, go to page2.php /a. No, href, we'll call this page 2, and then we'll enter anchor. So A is for anchor. I don't know, that's the link. Again, don't worry too much about it. A lot of this you can copy paste. And not need to know the web details if you haven't taken a web development course. If you have before, great, it's going to make a lot more sense. If you haven't, it's going to be a little fuzzy. That's okay. You'll pick up pretty quick. You folks are smart people. So I'm going to copy a link here. And then in page 2, I'm going to put a link here back to index.php, and we'll say index. And again, I just want to get rid of this comment because I don't need it. No big deal. So I'll save both of those. And go ahead and click run, or just go back to your page and refresh it here. And now I see hello world in PHP and a link for page 2. Oh yeah, the magenta on that background. It comes off a little funny. We're not going to use links a whole lot here, so it should be okay. And most of our stuff will be in code blocks. So I think I can change that. I'm not sure what would come out nicer though. Or maybe is it just kind of small? I'm not sure. Sorry, I use dark mode for everything if I can help it. I don't like the regular light mode, but now I see this page 2. It's going to link me to page2.php. And this is page 2, and I can link back to index, and I can jump between the two. Right? So this sends a request out to the web server and says, hey, give me page2.php. The web server says, oh, sure. Here, I'm going to run this code. So every time you go to a PHP page, it is going to run the PHP code before returning the result, which is really cool. So it's all dynamic, done on the fly, like on demand. You get freshly generated HTML just for you. Again, all this stuff here is static, but anything inside a code block is done when you request it, which is really cool. So it's hot off the presses. Oh, good. All right, almost out of coffee here. That's okay. We're due for a break in about 10, 15 minutes or so. We'll see how well it goes. Okay. So that's the real basics. Here's a boring page. We can just echo something out. So definitely you want to make sure you can get a hello world up and running. We can worry about some other multi-page stuff in a little bit here. Does that make sense? Where we're going so far? All right, let me bring this up over here. And then I'm going to come back to my GitHub client. And again, I always recommend you commit early and often. Commits are free. I mean, almost entirely free. I'm sure there's some little bit of electricity that it uses to do this sort of thing, but that's fine. Excuse me, we don't really care. So here's the change to the index page. It says, hey, line 11 was added. So Git is going to track stuff at the line level, which is awesome. Let's see, ban that person. And does that actually work? Like, do people actually want to go and click those links to like go buy followers? I guess some people really want to get famous, but I guess Twitch is this platform where like people can make a lot of money if you're famous and popular. So So, and then it says page 2 is brand new. Everything here was new. So Git will track stuff at the line level, which is super cool, right? So you can see exactly what line changed when. So I can put a message in here. We'll say, another add page 2, and I'll commit that snapshot and push it out. And then if you want, right, you go out to the GitHub for the course. So I'm going to link this here. That's right. That's what I want to do. I'm going to add this link here in D2L for you. In content, I'm going to add that link here on our main page. So I'm going to add it here as a link. Let's do it in course information. I'll add a new link. Here's our course repository. And so all the code that I do, everything, actually no, I want external, is going to get posted here, right? Putting PHP zip files and other things into D2L is awful because D2L is not made for code, right? A place like GitHub, which is a hosting provider of the Git source control tool, is made for GitHub, right? Or made for code, sorry. GitHub is made for code. So I'm going to put all the code out there. Where'd that tab go? This one here. So if I come to this page and I reload it here, I'm going to see now I can navigate around all the files. So if it's a folder, you can click the folder to open it, which is sweet. Oh, there we go. I could buy friends to talk to, Marv. That is definitely what I'm interested in doing. And inside this folder, again, NB project, just leave it alone. It doesn't matter. That's all the NetBeans stuff that you need. But I can see the index file, and I can click that, and I can see the text contents of that file, which is fantastic. So this works great for any code. Oh, for other people to buy friends? That's okay. No, that's fine. I'm a little bummed though. One of my buddies texted me this morning. He's sick, so he's not going to be able to make it to play D&D with us tomorrow. So we're going to have to reschedule our session, which is a bit of a bummer because we only meet monthly because we're all adults and it's kind of hard to find like a block of time every week. So we try to meet monthly, but hopefully we can reschedule that, and then I'll have friends to talk to when we play D&D. Okay, so you can always go and look at any of these examples here. Now you can, if you want, make a copy of this repository. I don't recommend it. Some people can, and some people like to, but I generally tell people just go look at what you want, and you can copy paste it if you want those examples. Right? You can just go grab all the text here and copy paste it in your own project. Either way, whatever works for you, but once you have a clone of the repository, it's possible to clone a public repository, but you can't make changes to it. And then it takes you down this funny rabbit hole, and it can get a little bit confusing. So again, don't recommend you usually clone mine, but just go look at all the examples. So every week I'm going to add new examples out here. Right? So in week 2, we'll do all the week 2 stuff, and so on and so on and so on. We're probably going to change the naming convention at some point because we're going to keep a project and keep evolving it as we go in the later chapter, so I can talk you through all the other cool stuff. But for now, you can always go find those examples here. Now, what you can't do is you can't go and hit my index.php page on my local computer because my local computer is not exposed to the public internet. So what we're focusing on here is strictly development. The actual deploying this out to a server in production that's exposed to the internet is a whole other ballgame. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but there's other considerations to be made, especially around security, those sorts of things. If it's just static pages that you're not doing anything with people's personal information or anything with money, you're probably fine. But you want to be a little bit careful out there. And there's all sorts of hosting providers and services you can use to do that sort of stuff. But what we're focused on is just getting it up and running locally. If you're interested, we actually have a web server administration course. I got to look that one up. What is that one called again? That kind of takes you through a lot of those finer details and actually running a server in production. Think about server, web system administration. Right. So web server installation, configuration, domain name services, authentication, security, monitoring performance, virtualization. So this is the course you'd want to take if you're interested in actually running one in production. What we're focused on in our course is just the development side of things and learning on how do we do stuff in code. So we care about the code portion, not necessarily the up and running and production piece. So there is a small gap there, and I feel a little bit bad about it. But honestly, it's so much material, it needs its own course here for web system administration. Right? There's a whole other stuff that goes into it. And the topic of this course is not web development, it's not programming, it's administration. So sometimes we break those things up. Maybe it's a little bit of a weird distinction, and often programmers know how to do this sort of thing, but sometimes you have people who are just administrators, like system administrators, who are not programmers. So there tends to be this idea of like a full stack web developer or a full stack developer who can do anything and everything, nuts and bolts, all the way up to everything in the web. So that would be a skill that they might have, but again, we're just focused on the development portion of things, right? Server-side software design and development techniques, right? That's what we're focused on here. Then the server side, right? That's PHP, that's the JSP servlets that we're going to look at. So we'll look at architecture, design patterns, frameworks, the PHP language, Java technologies, database access, XML and asynchronous JavaScript and XML, AJAX-based request processing, a little bit about security. Again, we get into some of the details of like important things to do, but not like how you lock down your own web server. This is like security on the development side of things. And yes, you will do all sorts of computer-based assignments. Go figure. Okay. So we've got that link out here in the course repository. So you can always go here and take a look at any of the code stuff that we do in class. Okay? How you folks doing so far? You okay? All right. No one's saying anything, so I'll assume that's good. No one's shouting me. So another little distinction here with how web requests work. Let me go run this one again. You'll notice that the request being sent here. Oh, let me get the page over here. All right, thanks so much. All right, good to hear. I'm glad things are going well. So please, shout at me anytime if you want me to slow down or repeat something. If we were in person in class, I would welcome you to just shout out loud. We've got chat here, and I'm pretty good at watching chat. That's why my camera is here, boop, and chat is over there. So if my eyes are like always off to the side, that's that's because I'm looking at chat here. So it's gonna be a little weird here. That I'm not like, I know people love that connection where I'm like looking at you, but I always find that weird in person too. Like I generally make eye contact with people and like kind of look around the room. But some people like look at me and other people are looking at the computer or the screen up front and whatever. So like the 2 or 3 people in the room who look at me, I feel like I'm staring at them all the time, because as I kind of like scan around the room, I'm like, hey, I'm making eye contact with you. And it's a little weird, to be honest. So like I had 3 people in my afternoon class this afternoon over at Dearborn. And because there were only 3 people in the room, everyone else was choosing to be asynchronous, or remote at least. Some of them synchronous, some asynchronous. Like I would just look at the 3 people over and over and over, and then like try and look at the webcam and whatever. So, all right. So this is an HTTP request. So you don't actually see it here. Edgeum is really good at hiding that sort of thing. But if I were to copy this path, it gives me. Sorry, that's kind of small. Let me put it like in. Let me do a new tab here. That's not too small here. Is that okay? So you see it's http://. This means this is the HTTP protocol being used for network communication. So the HTTP protocol is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext is HTML. So Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This is how we ask for web pages. Yeah, exclamation class there if you're interested. Official Gap Man. 29/12/04/91. Thank you so much. We've been doing this for a little while here, so if it looks like I'm prepared, I appreciate that. I'm winging it. So, although I have been using Twitch since before the pandemic started, I can claim that. And it was actually highlighted in an article in the amazing journal called Higher Education Today or something like that. It's like something nobody actually cares about except for us here in higher education. So where a friend of mine, or I call him a friend. We've never met in person, but he was a chemistry professor out in Florida who would use Twitch for his office hours. And then as the pandemic started, he started moving into doing lectures on Twitch. And I had been using Twitch just for lectures and not for office hours, because drop-in office hours are, I mean, generally I'm like answering specific questions. It's not just general tech chat. So I don't think it worked very well for me. But so we were doing this before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic started, we said, well, Zoom is not really very fun. And I just look at a bunch of black text boxes with a name in it here. And then if I have to record Zoom sessions, I have to go upload them, and I have to send links out places and whatever. And I thought Twitch was fun. I've been using it for a while. So I was like, I'll just keep using Twitch. And everyone seems to be following along. No, so Official Gatman, I don't do office hours on Twitch. I just do the lectures for class. It seems to work out better for me. At office hours, I'll just meet individually with people and do screen sharing, stuff like that. So, but HTTP is our hypertext transfer protocol. There are different protocols. If you go take the networking class, you can learn all about. Another very common one is TCP or IP, our transmission control protocol or internet protocol. Basically, that runs the world. Is how everything runs. There's also this thing called UDP, and I used to know what it stood for, but I don't right now, and it's okay. You don't have to memorize it at all. Oh, okay. Awesome. Glad to have you around then. So UDP is a different protocol for transmitting data over the network. Again, to go take a networking class, it's all sorts of interesting, sure. But there's the distinction there. So we're doing everything over HTTP, and then if you check out like a site like D2L, you'll notice it is HTTPS. Excuse me. HTTPS is the secure version of HTTP. So we don't get into this until later, because we kind of punt that down the road and say we'll worry about security later. And again, another reason why all this local development is just on my computer, not exposed to the internet, because it all is happening over just HTTP. It's not using secure or anything right now, and there's a whole other stuff we have to talk about for that. So. Yeah, well, I mean, tolerating data loss is it's made so that if you don't get the data, you don't get it. With the TCP protocol, you're ensuring every piece of data you sent was received, and if it wasn't received, you send it again. So there's a funny joke about TCP versus UDP, and I'm probably going to butcher it here because it's been a little while, but. Oh, you know it? Okay. Yeah, it's I'm going to tell you a joke about TCP, and then you wait for them to say okay, and you say, okay, I told you a joke about TCP. Did you get it? And they say okay, and you say okay, because with TCP, you are telling them you're going to send them something. You send them the thing, and they have to acknowledge that they got the thing. It's a kind of a noisy protocol, but that's generally how we send stuff because you want all the data to make it. Where with UDP, you just say, I'm going to tell you a joke about UDP. And if someone gets it, great. If they don't get it, great. UDP doesn't care. It could care less if you actually received it or not. So probably, I would imagine Twitch is probably like a UDP kind of protocol because we just are broadcasting. There's no, if you miss some packets, you miss some packets. But I don't know that for sure. I've never actually looked into the guts of how that works. So, all right, well, it's been about an hour. So we're due for a break here. So I need to go refill my coffee cup here. And you folks can go get a beverage, whatever you need to do. The great thing about TCP jokes is you always get them. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna steal that one. So why don't we take a couple minutes? I'll throw some music back on here, and we can go from there. So we do break time. We'll take about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back. Say that puts us at what, 7:15 or so. So 7:15 p.m. And we'll be back in a little bit. Thanks, folks. Alrighty, folks, welcome on back. Hope you're doing all right. All right, I think we're good for the music here. So we are good to go through. We pretty much covered everything in Chapter 1. There was an example you could follow through, but we're going to hit all of that again in Chapter 2 anyway. So we're going to jump into the stuff from Chapter 2 and look at actually making a PHP application that does stuff. We should have a lot of fun with that. Does that sound okay? All right, so, excuse me, wow, sorry about that. That's a lot of coffee. Had a little bit left, so that was good. Yeah, so we'll get through Chapter 2, we'll talk about the lab assignment, and then we'll talk about the first project. So a couple more things on tap for tonight. Hopefully we'll get you turned over for lab by aiming for like 8:30 or less. We'll see how well that goes, okay? That's sort of the goal, so. All right. So what we need to do now is we need to look at how you can create a form in PHP. And really it's just an HTML form. We're just going to use that form to send data somewhere. So for our index page here, I don't actually need any PHP code at all. I'm not going to worry about anything to start here. And sure, we can have the link there. Why not? So I'm going to start a form here. And inside that form now, we're going to put some things for people to enter some data for me. So we want to look at entering some information. So in the form then, we want the action. So action says, where do I want to send them? So for action, let's send them to hello.php. And then we give it a method. There are two methods. There's get and there's post. There's actually two other ones, but don't worry about it. So get is the most common We'll get into post request later, and we'll look at the difference between them. So we're going to start off with get, a get action here. And inside of our form, we're going to make some labels, and we'll say, I don't know, how about name here for the label. And then we want an input, not a comment. Why? That means that was not helpful. We want an input here, and our type of input is going to be text. This is a text box. We're going to type something in, and then we give it a name. So the name of the input is very important here. The name of the input is what we're going to use later in PHP to go get this value that they entered back out. So we're just going to call this one name, right? So we'll say name, and that is the input there. So we close the input. This one doesn't get an open and close tag. It's just all one tag here. And then we're going to add a line break. I guess just a BR. I thought everyone did /BRs, but sure, just a line break here. Okay, so you have a name, and then we're going to put in our major, and then, so I'm just copy pasting here. It's a major input for text, and we'll call this one major. And then we'll do one more, and we'll say, what else do we have? We had previous experience, or previous programming experience. Programming experience. We'll just call this one experience, maybe. And we wanted a name and preferred pronouns. Preferred pronouns. Pronouns. Major, previous programming experience, and then how about a fun fact? So sometimes the little pop-ups here are obnoxious, but that's okay. Fun cat, yeah. I like fun cats too. We'll call this fun fact. Okay, so we're going to pass all of this information in a form to the hello PHP page. Great. So what we need, then we're going to go add a new PHP file. We'll call it hello.php. Okay, so the hello PHP file now, if you don't pick a PHP web page, you just get a PHP code block that starts, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. If you want all the other stuff in there, go for it. No big deal. I just copy paste between the two. So really whichever one you want to start with is fine. So to get information out of a request here on this page, we say, I want to make a variable. So in PHP, we use $signs to indicate variables. So $name is going to be assigned the value of, it's still the assignment operator, whatever I get from, then $_get is this special get request. I can get things out. And then in square braces, I say, what's the name of the input that we're passing? So the name here was name. So I'm going to use name in quotes. That's name, and then a semicolon. So PHP uses semicolons here, but you notice we don't say what type of variable this is. PHP is weakly typed. It's not strongly typed like Java, where, in Java you had to say, hey, this is a string variable, and you could only ever put a string there. In PHP land, you say name, I expect it to be a string, but who knows what they're going to give me, right? We could get all sorts of weird stuff. So who knows? Maybe we'll see if we get lucky. So pronouns is, again, we're just going to kind of copy paste our way through here. So the pronouns. So I'm just going to get all of my values out here. So we had major, we had programming experience, and then we had fun facts, right? We had experience, major, and then we had experience, and then we had fun fact. And now the usual variable names, we use underscores or snake casing instead of camel casing. So we don't use every next letter being capital. Typically, we'll do the snake casing for PHP variable names. I don't care which one you use, and really it's not hard to change between the two. And there's tools built in that will do like that sort of formatting stuff for you. So I don't care what you use, just be consistent. Like pick one and stick with it, and you'll be fine. So now we get all of this information out. So we're getting all of our attributes here out of that request out. So generally we're going to do this in a code block at the top of our page here. So we're going to get all the information out, and then we can go do something with it. So once I have all of that, then I'm going to go write some HTML, and I'm going to use those variables. You don't necessarily have to do that, but this is generally considered good form of here's all the code stuff here. Boom, I can see all the code. Then here's all the HTML. And in the HTML, the only code we have is essentially echoing values back out, saying, oh, hey, go get this variable and jam it into my HTML. So I'm going to go and just copy one of these pages here, because we need all that nice, pretty HTML. And then I don't need, I guess I'll leave the link back to index. Why not? And we'll say, I don't know, hi there. And then if we want their name, we're going to do a PHP code block. So open brace, or less than, greater than, whichever one that is, question PHP. And we're going to say echo name, end the block. Matty Cakes, you got it, a dad joke. So I still happen to have, which I love these Twitch channel point redemptions, because it is really boring to sit and listen for such a long time. Sometimes you got to break it up. Yeah, we're back to remote for most of the classes. So I was given the option at OCC, and we're going to do whatever we can to keep the load off of our hospitals, because our poor healthcare workers are going nuts out there. So it's been awful. So I've got a pack of dad jokes here. Yeah, I'm sorry, Maddie. I think I told this one already, so I'm going to put it back in the back of the pack here. Pretty sure I did that one. Oops, there we go. All right, so our next one. What do sprinters eat before a race? Nothing. They fast. Sprinters. All right, sure. All right, this one's better, I promise. How do you organize a space party? You plan it. Yeah, poor Pluto's not invited to that party anymore, are they? Oh, poor Pluto. Although someone told me they were invited back into the Planet Club. So, hey, thanks so much. I'm on Linux. Thanks for coming on by. All right, so what I'm going to do here then is just use the echo commands anytime I want to output some sort of information here. So let's do, I don't know, I'm going to put each of these in a little paragraph, because that will automatically add all the line breaks and all that good stuff for me. That way I don't have to worry about adding all the BRs and things. So each one of these will be a paragraph. So hi there. And then we'll say your pronouns are, and then we'll echo $pronouns. And again, you should get the type ahead, right? So long variable names are no problem. You want your variable names to be descriptive of what you're using for them. Okay? And, or I don't know, we'll say my name is, I guess, right? This is my, so we'll maybe this is like first person instead of third person. And then my major is, and we'll echo out the major. And then we have my programming experience is, or experience is, and this is experience, great. And then we'll have the fun fact. Oh yeah, fun fact. A fun fact about me is fun fact. Fun fact. So use tab to autocomplete, right? So if you're typing a variable name like $fu and it comes up with something here, you just hit tab to autocomplete the variable, right? So be a good programmer, be lazy. And I mean that in you should be efficiently lazy. Don't do more work than you need to. Right, use the tools, use the shortcuts and things, and so on and so on. So we can do all that good stuff here. Right? So here we get the only thing inside this HTML block is essentially echoes. Right? So we're separating all of the code logic from the display just to keep it a little easier to follow. So let's give it a shot. I'm going to run my program. I should get the index page with a form. Oh, sorry, it's in the wrong page here, a wrong window here, wrong screen. So we'll put a name. So Eric, he, him, automotive systems and mobility, 15 years in various languages, and a fun fact about me, I like D&D. So JavaScript works on the client side. So JavaScript will execute in the browser here. PHP executes on the web server. and will translate what happens here into the HTML response that it gives back to somebody. So you would never have a banking application with logic in JavaScript because people can go change it. And if I can in JavaScript say, hey, go add $100 to my bank account, bad things are going to happen. You have to have everything happen on the server side because the web server needs to do all the authentication and all that good stuff to make sure you actually who you say you are before they transfer money in and out of your account. Yep. So there was actually a really fun story a while back. It was Domino's client-side credit card. I forget exactly what it was. I think there was, yeah, I think this was it. This is probably the article. So Domino's was processing payments on the client side with the payment gateway, which is fine, but the server side should make sure that the payment actually went through, right? Which is nice. That way the client gets to talk to your payment processor, not you. But turns out they didn't actually check to see if it was valid or not. So they went through and ordered it, and they got some free pizza here because they just changed their response to say, oh, great. Yep, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to place the order. Given the order ID, and it goes. So again, they told Domino's, and that Domino's fixed it and that sort of thing. But this was a fun little story about making sure you don't do silly things on the client side like that. Or if you do, what is the whoever said that it's trust but verify. That was a former president, right? Trust but verify. Verify quote. Was it Ronald Reagan? Is that who said it? Yeah, Ronald Reagan. Trust but verify. So, right, you can do it on the client side, but then verify on the server side what actually happened, and that you expect it to have happened. So that's our fun story. Let's see. We want where did it go here? Here we go. My information, right? I like D&D. Oops, I forgot my submit button. I have a form here, but I have no way of submitting it here. So now let me go fix that. Let me go back to my index page, and we need a submit. Or is it? Oh my goodness! Honestly, I copy paste this from everything I do. I don't remember any of this stuff. It's not worth keeping in your head. So I'm just going to go find that submit again real quick. Yeah, there we go. So our input here is a type of submit here, and we'll say the value is. So the value here is what's going to show. We'll say, I don't know, just submit. Sure, why not? There we go. So now I should be able to go and refresh my form, and I get a button here. So one more time. So we'll do Eric Janeski, do he and him, do automotive systems and mobility, 15 years, yada yada, and I like D&D, and now we can submit. So submit now will take it. So I'm going to hit F12 to get the DevTools open, and it will load here in a second. So I'm going to go to the network tab so I can see this happen. So I go to submit, and I see no thanks. I see, hey, we sent it to hello.php, and you'll notice in the URL we have all of this information. So a GET request sends all of the form parameters in the URL. Yep. Matty Cakes, free money is a bad thing. Yeah, if you have a lot of free money, inflation starts to happen, right? Is that how that works? I feel like that's a thing. So a GET request, all of the information comes across in the URL. So you see name, and you see equal. So we get pairs. We get the name that was assigned, right? So the name here, whatever name you gave it, shows up, and then you get the equal sign, and after that comes what you typed in. Notice there's no spaces. You can't have spaces in URLs. Weird stuff happens. So they substitute spaces with pluses. Other fun characters like D and D get, what is this? HTML encoded. So %26 is the HTML encoding for the ampersand sign, right? Because I put that in. But we can see all this information went across, and I went and I got all of that out of the request, and I put it into my HTML response. So when I look at the web page source, the elements here, all I get is the HTML. None of that PHP code block comes through. So anything that's in a PHP code block does not come through to the client side. It all happens on the server side, and all you get back is the plain HTML, which is cool. So you don't see any of the code executing on the server side. That's how I can get data out of a GET request. Right, so this is just my hello form, or my introduction form. Intro form, introduction form. Right, so I'll commit and push that. There we go. All right, so other cool things we can do then with these requests, right? A couple types of variables that we have in PHP. You get integers, which are whole numbers. You get doubles, numbers with decimals. Those are pretty familiar. You get booleans, which are true or false, yes or no, on or off, that sort of thing. You get strings. So we've done strings, right? Strings, like right in, we got right here. This is a string, in quotes. You can also have arrays and you can have objects. We'll talk more about arrays and objects later. So for now, we get integers, whole numbers, right? We get doubles, numbers with decimal places, booleans, and strings. So we're a little bit limited into what we can use, but essentially that's all we need for now. Nothing too crazy here. And we can use that assignment operator to assign values to our variable names. So we just say, hey, here, $this, and if it exists, it updates the value of it. If it's new, it makes a new variable, right? So I could go overwrite any of these if I wanted. Fun fact, equals Eric is a nerd, right? If I wanted to. So I could take what I get out of the GET request, and then I could change the value here. So this just changes the value here. And it's even telling you, hey, you're actually assigning it twice, which is really nice. So netbeans is showing you, hey, you assigned it, and then immediately you assigned it a new thing. Just kind of a helpful hint, right? But you can change any of those if you want. So if I save that and I rerun it, refresh my page, I get Eric is a nerd. Sure. And again, all that information is still coming on the GET request. So if you remember, like Bing or Google, I'm a little wary of Google or Alphabet, right? If you search something here, like let's search PHP, you get the search page with, hey, here's the query right here. You get a bunch of other nonsense that they add for tracking and whatever, but you can take this URL and you can send it to somebody and it will load the search page. So a GET request is made so that you can basically copy paste the URL. All of the information here belongs in the URL and we can save it. So generally GET requests are used for things that are just getting data out of a database, but nothing changes here. Or if it's okay for that request to happen multiple times, right? It's okay if I search a bunch of times. It's okay if I want to say hello a bunch of times. No big deal. Nothing wrong happens. The other thing we can do is a post request. So a post request, so we change the type here from get to post for the method. Posts are made for when you are changing data or writing data, not just reading data back out, but you actually want to save something. Or if the request, if it happens multiple times, is bad. So posts automatically get a little bit of warning in browsers if you try and refresh the page. So like on a GET request, you can refresh as much as you want, and it will just reload the page because it doesn't care. It's going to resend it. Post requests are also good because the variables don't show up here. So if you're going to log in to a website, you don't want it to send your username and password in a GET request, right? Because then your password's in the URL, and that's really bad. Okay. Other reasons, like if someone bookmarks a page, we've had all sorts of fun issues where people bookmark pages with GET requests and they take them to certain things or it does weird results. So posts will avoid that. And then there are limits to how much data you can put in a GET request. It limits about 4 kilobytes worth of data, which is actually a lot of data, but it is limited. So if you need to send more than 4 kilobytes, you got to send it over a post request. So that's all. So if we were to change this to post here, now my hello page isn't going to work because all of these were looking for GET. So let me try it real quick. Let me just refresh the page. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still sending it as a GET. So let me go back to index. Let me send it all over again. So Eric Chinesky, he and him. We'll do automotive. Look at that. It even saved my form here. How fun is that? Now when I submit, there's nothing in the URL, and I get all these undefined array key name. There is nothing called name. There is nothing called pronoun, nothing called major experience or fun fact in the get object. That $under get, it can't find any of those. So PHP is puking on it and giving me all sorts of PHP errors, which is really ugly and bad. And then I have no values here, except for Eric is a nerd, right? Because that one's still there. And you can see the contents here. There's just nothing shows up. And we get all these lovely warnings. So that's real ugly. If we wanted to, we could get them out of post. So to get it out of a post request, you just say post, $post. So I'm just going to go swap all these real quick. Save it. Now when I come back and refresh, I get the data. But it should, why is it not warning me about posting again? It should have warned me about posting. That's a bummer. Usually it gives you a warning like, hey, do you really want to submit this form? And I'm confused why it's not, but that's okay. Maybe I did something wrong. Let's go back and submit and then refresh. Nope, okay. Is it because the dev tools are open? There we go, okay. So if the dev tools are open, it assumes you probably know what you're doing. So I close my dev tools. Now I get, hey, by the way, it might redo the thing you're trying to do here. And a lot of times, like if you're doing online shopping and whatnot, you probably don't want to buy the same thing twice and that sort of whatever. So you do get a warning most of the time in the browser. And you can say, yeah, I want to continue and reload it, or no, I don't. In our case, we don't really care if it's a post or a get. But generally, we're going to use gets for everything that is a read-only sort of operation. We'll save posts for when we start interacting with the database. Okay, so I'm just going to undo all those changes. Put it back to gets here, and I'll undo my index change. Put it back to get here, and then we should be back and up and running. So now if I refresh, if I post the data, it can't find anything in posts. Oh my goodness, I got to reload my page. Here we go. So I went back enough to get all the get data back here. And everything's back in the URL. And I could change this in the URL, right? If I wanted to change D&D, I like food. Oh, that one's not going to show up there. Let's change this one. How about 15? Let's say let's go increase my experience here. Let's go put that to like say 25. Right? If I change the URL here, I don't have to do it inside the form. You might think post is a little bit better, but it's still easy enough to change the stuff you send as post variables. It's not hard to change any of that. Ooh, actually, let me show you this one more time. Let me put all those changes back. We'll go back to post. We'll go back to, so I'm doing redo here, back to post. So one more time, I want to show you here then. Let's go back, back, back. Here we go. When I submit this, oh, no, I got to reload the page. Eric, all right, let's put all these back in. Now, when I open up the dev tools, not F11 for full screen, I want dev tools. And I go to the network request tab. When I go to submit, if I click on hello, I can see in the payload all of the form data. So if you want to see what's getting passed in a form, you can get that from payload here. Right? And we can see these were all of the, here's the name, here's the associated value. Here's the name, here's the associated value. This is all what was passed in the form because it's not showing in the URL. But you can still see it here in the dev tools, right? Which is awesome. So we like that. So if you're doing it in post, great. You know what, I'll leave this as post right now. So we'll say, here's the two changes, right? We changed all these lines, and we changed index to post. So this is post. And push. Okay, so we can do that. So we can get data or we can post data. Both work pretty much the same way. Some other cool things with strings here. So if we wanted to, instead of saying Eric is a nerd, with a double quoted string, what PHP lets you do is automatic substitution. So I can say $name is a nerd, and the resulting string will actually take whatever the name variable is, jam it into this string, and give me this out. You might have seen it the slow way. This is a fun fact, slow. You might say is equal to $name. And then you, oh my goodness, why am I not thinking? In Java, you'd append or concatenate strings together with a plus sign, and you'd say, is a nerd, like that. In PHP land, it's the period, or the dot. So dot is for concatenation, for string concatenation. So for string concatenation, concatenation. Yes, yeah. Lycreos. Yes, so we use the dot notation in PHP. It's a little bit funky, but you'll get used to it. But a double quote here instead of a single quote will automatically let you do string substitutions. So this auto sub only works with quotes, not apostrophes. Lycryos. Okay, Lycryos. Li? Sorry, I'm terrible at English and names, but please correct me. I'm happy to work on that. Lycryos. Okay, I can say that. So this works. If you try and do it with the single quotes here, it's actually not going to let you here. And what it's going to do is give you $name as the actual literal text. Yeah, PHP is a lot of fun, Texas. You know, a lot of people dump on it, but I think it's a great language for getting started doing some stuff in webs, web server tech for sure. So this will give you $name in the actual string. No subbing. Oh yeah, wildly popular. Lots of places, even though people seem to decry it and say all these other more modern things are better, but it's still wildly popular. So let's try that, and I'll just refresh my page, and I get $name is a nerd. Obviously not what we wanted, right? That's not ideal, right? That's not good. So let's just comment that one out here, and we'll go back to this one, and it's automatically going to substitute whatever the name variable was into that string. It's fantastic. Again, nothing wrong with doing it the slow way. Like, here's the variable concatenated with another string here, but we're going to be lazy and take all the shortcuts we can. Yeah, what is Facebook even used? I don't even know. Like, what? Let's Google that. What web server tech does Facebook use? Really? Oh, that was 2008. Oh my goodness, yeah, that was a while ago. We want something recent. I think this Quora page is the answer here. Tech stack rebuilds 2020. Engineeringfacebook.com. Okay, this must be their rebuilding our tech stack. What did they use here? Yeah, it was just PHP. Lots of cascading style sheet, lots of JavaScript. Sure. Oh my goodness, they have 2 megabytes of cascading style sheets? That's nuts. Where is it here? Geez, where's it telling me? Is it still PHP? I don't know, let's just search. Okay. It goes through GraphQL. That's their new thing they were working on, which is pretty cool. Lots of JavaScript. So that uses Relay. That's their JavaScript thing that they did. I don't know. Sure. Yeah, GraphQL is really cool. Server. I don't know. Whatever. I'm sure we can look it up later. So that's just interesting. All right, so back to our PHP code. So again, strings are great. You can use all sorts of different operations for strings. If we have numeric values here, right? So we said, hey, I want, let's throw a number in here. So this is, how about years old? And I'll put in 34 as a numeric value. Now, in here, I can append in a string, or I'm sorry, I can append in a integer value, and it will treat it as a string. So it automatically converts strings for me, which is nice. Right? And I get my number here, which is pretty cool. Say, years old, you're old nerd. So probably easier, right, to just include it inside the string, but you can do concatenation if you want. And so the double quotes are super powerful. They can do all sorts of substituting here. But you also can append them in if you want. So you can take a string, so some string equals testing string, and then append or concatenate, right, the years old variable. You can concat numbers with strings. So that is the one nice thing. Like, we get that the dot here is doing string concatenation, not the plus sign where you might have gotten arithmetic or you might have gotten string concatenation. So it's a little bit more clear here what we're doing. So I do like that they don't use that same operator, I guess, for that reason. All right, so another cool thing. We'll do it in post here. So if I want, and I'm honestly just going to go Google this. I want a JavaScript alert because I don't remember the whole thing every time. But that's okay. We want alert. Script type here. Oh, I don't want it to be a function though. I'm going to go in Notepad, drop this in, and get rid of this function thing, and I just want to say alert. So we'll say alert. We'll say, to go to the nice Midwest, we'll go op here and end our script. I don't need the curly brace because we got rid of the function definition. We'll say that's our script. So if I make a little bit of HTML code, right, or essentially this is embedded JavaScript here, and I take this and I come back to my form. Where'd my form go here? And let's go back to the index page, and we'll say my name now is, here's some JavaScript. And again, we'll plug in the rest of our data here, sure, why not? And I submit this. I get, oop, I gave the web server some JavaScript code. It gave it right back to me, and my browser is running it. That's real bad, right? We don't want that to happen. You don't want someone to be able to give you JavaScript and have you go run it, right? That's not cool. Not cool, right? We don't want that, right? And it ran actually twice because we had name here and the name up here. We got popped twice with that embedded JavaScript. So what you can do to avoid that is there's a built-in function already called HTML special chars, or special characters, essentially. So we're going to take anything that we get here and we're going to run it through HTML special characters to turn anything that they give me into the HTML encoded. So remember when we did the GET request and the ampersand was like %24 or something? When we do HTML encoding, oh goodness. Oh, I don't know how to spell. That's right. So HTML special chars. There we go. Okay. So it should have known that it popped up here. Now we can reload and we get this encoded, which is safe for the browser to go and display it here. So what I actually get back in the request, if I view my source, right-click View Source, or go check out that network here, you get the HTML encoding. So ampersand GT semicolon is the greater than sign. Ampersand LT colon semicolon is the less than sign, right? So those are the brackets I put around here. So all of that gets encoded into HTML, which the browser is more than happy to show you the pretty version of it, but it won't execute it as actual JavaScript. Right, so this is the safer way to go about it here. So anytime we're taking input from the user and displaying it, you want to run it through HTML special characters, which seems really obnoxious to have to do this every time, but I'm going to do it every time. And we'll just feel better about ourselves. So pretty much you always want to use the HTML special characters when we're dealing with string input from a user here, okay? Because that will make sure that we don't do some bad things. yeah, the book goes through all sorts of numeric operations. I assume because you guys have already had a programming class, you know how addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus work. Remember, modulus is the remainder, the whole number remainder. That's the percent sign. You can do plus plus to add. You can do minus minus to subtract. That's all the same as Java land. I think we're fine there. We have order of precedence. We have the combined assignment operators or compound assignment operators. I think are fine. Let's see, number formatting is fun. You can do date formatting. That's fun too. Okay, so to get values out. So it was warning me earlier, it's not now, that getting something right out of post is not ideal. And really, it's not ideal because if I don't send something, remember when we didn't have the get data and we got those error messages, it was ugly. So a better way of getting get or post data is by using this thing called filter input. So I'm going to say I want to filter input. And what do we want to do? So the type of input that I want to filter here is from input post. So input post is the type. Then what do I want to get? I want to get the thing called name, so I don't use those square braces anymore. So filter input will automatically, if it doesn't exist, not crash, which is fantastic. So filter lets you not crash. But lets you, or not give ugly error messages if the arguments aren't there, or variables, or whatever we want to call them here. So I'm going to run all of these through a filter input of input post. So I'm going to copy all of that, put post, and then replace that. Right? I think that ought to do it. Okay. So just swap some of those square braces. So filter input also works for get. It's input get versus input post. And then you're fine here. So all of them are going to go through HTML special characters. We're going to do the filtering so that if I don't have the values, I get defaults for strings, which is empty, which is great. And life is good. Right? We refresh. Nothing looks like it changed because we already sent all of it here. Right? But what could happen now, if I just come to the hello page and I don't come from the form, it doesn't give me any errors now. It's just a bunch of blanks, except for, 34-year-old nerd, because that one's in here. Okay? So using the filter gives us defaults, which are just empty strings, which is nice. So let's close that. Okay, so HTML special characters and filter input is fantastic. Now, if we're dealing with some sort of numeric input here, right? So let's add another form. Yeah, I'm just going to copy this form, and then let's do another one down here. And let's do, what do we want to call this? How about our, what's some easy arithmetic we can do? Oh, excuse me. Let's say this is my pizza calculator. And let's just do this as a get. So I'll leave a get and I'll leave a post. So we can have one example of each. So this will be number of people at the party. Text will be people. And then we want a average slices per person. Here is going to be, this is slices per person. And we'll say people at party. Why not? We can use nice names here. And we want that submit. So if you tell me how many people are coming and how many slices they get, and let's do one more. Let's do an input for, how about pizza size? And we'll call this size. So like we're expecting them to tell me like small, medium, or large, that sort of thing. We can do prettier drop-downs later. We'll get to that. Don't worry about it. We'll do prettier drop-downs later, but for now we'll stick to this because it's simple here. And then we'll submit here for, this is pizza time. I don't know. We'll do something silly. So we'll send it to pizza PHP. So let's go over to a new PHP file. We'll call it pizza. Now, again, I'm pretty much going to copy from here, and then we'll go edit stuff as we go. So just paste it all in, and we'll go change it. So I want the number of people, right? What was my number of people, I think we called it? No, people at the party. Sure. We'll say people at the party. $people at the party is going to be, now with this one, if it's a numeric value, I'm not going to do the special characters. Because what you can do when you go and filter input, this was people at the party, you can give it an additional piece of information here. You can say, I want to filter validate, and I want to validate that it is an integer. So this is going to make sure that I only get integer values. if the arguments aren't there, and can filter for types of input. So if it's not an integer value, it's going to give me the default, but it's going to try and take it as a integer value. And I'll have slices per person, right? I think was the other one we said, slices per person. Cool, let's copy that one over. So I'm going to do the same thing here, actually. Let me do that. So we'll grab this whole line here. We'll do slices per person. And that was slices per person. And then the last one was going to be size. So this one we want to do special characters on because this was a text box, right? So just take the text, do the special characters on anything that was text here. So we'll get rid of some of these. Okay. So to figure out how many slices I need, so this will be total slices needed, right, is going to be my people at the party times the slices per person, right? Now I need to see, okay, well, I know a small pizza has 6 slices, a medium pizza has 8, and a large pizza has 10, right? We can do that sort of arithmetic here. So we want to figure out if what they entered here was small, medium, or large, right? So we need an if block. So we can add an if block. So we say if here, and then in parentheses, we say my size. And now we want to check if it, I'm just double checking to make sure I do the string comparisons right. Where'd that one go? Yep, I think that's fine. I think we can just say equals, a double equal sign, right, for equals comparisons. It equals small, then a set of curly braces, just like Java land. Then we'll say the pizzas needed is going to equal the total slices divided by my, we said 6 slices per pizza, right? So let me actually define pizzas needed here. We'll start it off at 0 here. I don't know, sure. And then if it's not small, else if, and the syntax just follows, right? If the size is medium, we'll do this divided by 8. You know what, this is getting ugly here, so let's forget that. Let's say, how about a slices per pizza starts off at 0. And we'll just say the slices per pizza, because I don't want to do the same arithmetic more than once, right? You just set those values to 6, 8, or 10. So else if it was large, we'll say that's 10. And if we couldn't calculate that, right, if it's not small, medium, or large, then my slices per pizza, we're going to say, let's just put to 1. I don't know. We could do some sort of better error message. We'll worry about that later. Better error later. Okay. So then we can calculate my pizzas needed. Pizzas needed is going to be my total slices needed divided by the slices per pizza. Slices per pizza. There we go. Okay. So then we can tell them here, right, just a single little output. You need to buy, echo the pizzas needed, pizzas for the party. Oops. Yep. And that's it. We can link them back to index. Okay, so let's try and run that. See if that one works for us. All right, so number of people at the party. So if we're having, let's go with 6 people at the party and they eat 3 slices each, that should be 18 slices of pizza. So if we get a medium pizza with 8 slices each, right, let's say medium, pizza time, we need to buy 2.25 pizzas. Well, that's not great. We should probably round up, right? We need to do some sort of rounding here because you can't buy a quarter of a pizza. You kind of are going to have a hard time with that, right? But that's okay. You know, we can worry about the rounding part later. The number format's really good for that, right? Actually, we could even check to see if there's a remainder and do that arithmetic ourselves. So if you want to get integer division, there's a way you can do, excuse me, int division, where you would drop the remainder. And probably not all that interesting, but we can. So we can say this is int division. So we want integer division for a whole number. And then we can say if this arithmetic here So if this modulus the other, so if we have a remainder, is greater than 0. If there's a remainder, we need to add a pizza. Right, plus plus, we can add to it. Right, so just the whole number. This is rounded down, right? So it truncates any decimal remainder. So we'd only get 2 here, and then we're gonna say, hey, if there's a remainder left over, add a pizza, because you need to make sure you have enough pizza. So now we can come back and refresh, and now it says, hey, we need to buy 3 pizzas, right? Places per person was 3, size was medium, great. Again, we can worry about that error message later. This is essentially getting us our calculations here. That part makes sense so far? Okay, I think you folks are doing great. We got some values, yeah, we got our if blocks, we got else's, life is good. Excuse me. How you feeling? So that's about everything I think we need to cover here. You know, all the other stuff is just basic. Loops. We could do loops. They work the same way as in Java land, so I don't need to spend too much time, I think. And I hope that's fair to assume that you can do while loops and for loops. They work pretty much the same. Yeah. So including, okay, that's some good stuff. We can look at including and requiring and exiting. So that's a nice way to get some errors out. You know, why don't we actually save that for next week, though? So I think we'll be okay. We got a little bit of time. We can throw that in to look at some of those cleaner error messages, where you can follow along the book example for the clean error messages. So we're a little after 8 now, and we still got to talk about the lab and the project. So I want to make sure you get enough time for that. So, yeah, we'll do a lab for tonight. Another little practice, real similar to this pizza calculator. Is kind of what I had in mind here. And then we'll talk about the first project. Okay? That sounds like a good plan? All right, so let me go back to the GitHub Classroom link. All right, and sorry, apparently one of my kids is not feeling so great. It's another reason it's good to be remote here. We'll go to our class. We'll add lab 1. 54, 2022. This is lab 1, right? We did, or was the other one lab 1? This is lab 2. I think I called it lab 1. What did I have the repo for? That's fine. We'll call it lab 2. And we want to use our Java template, which is fine, works the same way for us. Continue. We'll do our feedback pull requests. And great, here's our link. Awesome. So let me copy this in here. So make a new assignment. Oh, we did call it lab 0. Okay. I can change that then. And I can edit this, I think. Lab 1. There we go. We'll call it lab 1. Update. Perfect. This will be lab 1. Lab 1, PHP basics. So this is due next week before class starts. Again, if you want to tackle it tonight, fantastic. You got time to do it. If not, you know, it's okay. I get it. It's been a long night. And if you got to take off and worry about it later, that's cool too. So go in labs, 10 points for this one. So they should all be 10 points if I did it right. Put this in the labs category. This will make those look a little prettier here. It's just a text submission. You're just going to give me the submit the URL to the feedback pull request in the lab 1 repo created above. Okay. All right. Cool. So what we're going to do, so we are going to, on the index page, or on an index PHP, create a form that asks the user for the following. So we are going to ask them for, let's see, what do we want to do for this one? Let's do the total number of credits required to complete their degree program. we'll ask them for the total number of credits already completed. We'll ask them for the average number of credits taken per semester. So if you need 62 credits to finish out an associate's here, and however many you've already completed, right? The remaining credits, you do the subtraction, and you can divide by the average number of credits taken per semester to calculate the number of remaining semesters. Be sure to round up to the next whole number. You can't take half a semester, right? It doesn't work like that. So make sure we're doing that same rounding up. If you want to do the modulus approach we did here, go for it. Perfectly fine. Do the integer division, do the modulus, have at it. If you want to do it a different approach, go for it. Doesn't matter at all. No big deal. We also need their name. Their name. And major. Let's ask for their major too. Name and major. So when we get those variables, be sure to filter validate any numeric input, put in HTML special characters, any string or text inputs here. Okay, and then on a results.php page, display the remaining number of semesters for them along with their name and major. So something like Eric, it will take you X more semesters to complete your whatever the engineering, automotive systems and mobility. Right? That's sort of, for example. Does that part make sense? What we're looking for? I don't know. Apparently, I think I'm royal. I'm the royal we. What we're looking for this? So pretty much what we did here. Not too much needs to change, right? We'll go get some inputs, get or post, doesn't matter, and then we'll do the quick little arithmetic, and we'll spit it back out as a result. That makes sense for the lab? All right, so let me save and close that one. All right. Awesome. Oh, I got to edit this lab here. Let me put it in that lab category. Let me drop that in our category here. There we go. Cool. Oh, neck's getting sore. I think I'm slouching too much. Definitely need to take care of my posture a little better. Although if I sit up nice and straight, my head hits the loft bed here. Oh. Give me seconds to stretch, sorry. This is nicer though, the tech stations at OCC, there's no space for your legs because it's like a cabinet in front with all the hardware there. So you have to sit really awkwardly in front of it on one of their stools. I guess you're encouraged to stand, but standing for hours on end is also difficult. So, all right. So we got our PHP basics, great, and then we're going to talk about our first project. Again, the projects are the bigger ones, more things to tackle, more interesting stuff going on here. So let's do Project 0. Highland OSHA complaint. 6 p.m. This one is due in 2 weeks. Again, these are the bigger projects. About 10 points here. I'll put together a rubric for you for this so you know exactly how you earn those points. Also be in the projects category. Fantastic. We'll do a new category here for projects. There's a text submission. And we make up a new link here. Look at that. We get so many links. So remember, a repository is just a folder. So it's just a way to keep things organized here so everything stays separate. So this is CIS 2454, winter 2022, project 0. We'll do our Java template. Yada, yada, yada. You can, after it's scored, no. So just the one submission, really. So like if you keep working on it throughout the 2 weeks, go for it. I don't care how many times you submit to Teach-Well, but I'm only going to grade it once. The reason is, again, in 2 weeks, the start of class, I'm going to go over the solution to this. So everyone will have the answers. It seems to be has been relatively valuable to show how I would go about solving these problems. I tend to get good feedback that's pretty useful. So I don't. That's why I can't take things late for stuff like that. Submit the URL to feedback pull request. So we're going to write a basic income tax calculator application. So a fun thing about income taxes here in the United States, it is a progressive tax system. So I want the MoneyChimp income tax calculator. They seem to have the best explanation of this here. Given it's tax season, this works out pretty well here. Oh, we don't want the fancy one. We just want the basic one. No, come on. I just want the tax brackets. Is this the one I want? Yeah, here we go. So the way this works is income is taxed at a different rate based on how much you make. And really, if the income at that level is taxed differently, the way that payroll deductions work for taxes is they try and estimate how much you should owe given this progressive system. So just because the highest tax rate is 37% does not mean you pay 37% of every dollar you've earned. You only pay 37% income tax on money earned above $523,600 in 2021. Okay, so what happens here is every dollar between 0 and 9,950 you pay 10% of. Then every dollar above 9,950, excuse me, and 40,525 you pay 12% of. Right? You're not paying 12% of the first 9,950. You only pay 10% of that. Right? So what they typically do for your payroll deductions is they say, okay, how much are you going to make in the year? And they go calculate that for you and then take out the same amount every paycheck. Because otherwise it'd be nuts to get less taken out your first paycheck and then more every subsequent paycheck as your total gross income keeps increasing. That would be super weird, that sort of thing. So income is taxed at the bracket in which it's earned, right, for the total amount. Okay, so we're going to calculate the taxes owed at each bracket. So if you don't make more than 40,000, you're not paying 22% or 24% or 32% or 35% or 37%. Doesn't matter. But if you make $100 million of earned income, which is different than capital gains because of our crazy tax system, you're still paying 10% of your first 9,950, just like everybody else. So anybody and everybody pays the same 10% on their first $9,950. Unless you file, married filing jointly, these numbers change a little bit. So pick a single or married, I don't care, whichever is applicable to you, go for it, or just pick one for fun. It does not matter. It doesn't matter at all. So just a fun fact about this one though. So the single numbers here, right, 86,000 doubled, right, that one seems okay. Back to single, 40,000 doubled, 81,000, great. And now 329,000. Is that doubled? Let's see. It's been a year since I've looked at this. Let me check my calculator here. Times 2, yeah, 329. Is that it? 329. Okay, that one's good. So 418. Half of that is 209. Great. Here we go. So there is a penalty for being married. But you have to make a decent amount of money here as a married couple before you hit it. So as someone who's single, right, your first $200,000 of income you pay 32% of, and then you're paying 35% up to $500,000. This $209,000 doubled here, married filing jointly, great, 418, but then above $628,000, you start paying 37% tax way sooner than if both of you were filing single. Right, 523,000 doubled is over $1 million before, if we were to double this before you'd hit the 37% bracket. So there's a marriage penalty, unfortunately, in here, which is nuts that our system has this sort of thing. But anyway, so we're going to, so using the brackets here, and again, I find this is the easier site to understand here. Why my paste never likes to work. D2L is super weird. So using the tax brackets, calculate the income tax owed at each bracket. Marv, I doubt that. I don't know. It seems rare to find rich people who are like still with their spouse, which is crazy. I think Warren Buffett, though, still is, right? I think he's still married to his original spouse. So it can happen. Sometimes I think money gets to people's heads, and then they go and do dumb things. So, but anyway, so our tax bracket, we're going to calculate the income tax owed at each bracket. So on the index PHP form, ask the user to enter their name, their total gross income, and total deductions. So again, this is an oversimplification. It doesn't exactly work this way, but you're allowed to take a deduction here. We have a standard deduction, or you can itemize deductions. So 2021 standard deduction, look at that. I've either searched this before or it's new. So if you're single, right, is $12,550, you can deduct off of your gross income and say you don't have to pay taxes on that, essentially, or at least income taxes. Good luck with your FICA and Medicare and Social Security stuff. But you'll allow them to enter that. So things like charitable deductions, if you donate money to nonprofits, and then all sorts of weird other things are deductible thanks to our crazy tax policy. So like owning a home, you can deduct the mortgage interest that you pay, not the principal amount, but just the interest you're paying on your loan. So if you buy a crazy big house and are paying tons of interest on it, it's generally deductible. There's certain limits on it, and I think they've reduced it a little bit, but that was their incentive to try and incentivize home ownership and give people tax deductions on that. There's no renting deduction, right? So you poor renters, you're screwed. But homeowners, right? At least you get that tax deduction, right? I don't know. Tax policy is nuts. It's super crazy. So if their total deductions is less than the standard, allow them to use the standard deduction, right? And I'll just paste that in, what that was. So you can use either set of brackets, whatever you want. Okay. So we need to use the HTML special characters on the name variable, and filter inputs, the total gross income and total deductions inputs to make sure we're cleaning those up. So you've got to go do the work, total up all your gross income. If you work more than one job, add up all your W-2s for your gross income, and then add your total deductions. Again, whichever bracket they used, pick the right total deduction here, and then we're going to calculate the taxes owed at each bracket. Right, so that idea is we're going to tell them, hey, at the 10% bracket, you owe this much tax. At the 12% bracket, you owe excuse me, you owe this much tax. At the 22, on and on and on, all the way out. Okay. Then we're also, so that was, here. Calculate the total taxes owed, which is the sum of every tax at each bracket. And if it's 0, that's okay. Total taxes owed. Calculate taxes owed as a percentage of gross income. So people like to say, excuse me, oh hey, these rich people, they don't pay 37% tax. Well, yeah, you're never going to pay exactly 37% because you only pay that on the money up at the highest bracket. You pay a lower amount. But again, the point is they get really close to these lower numbers here thanks to how capital gains are taxed. But we're going to see what it is for us general people here, us normies. So calculate the percentage of gross income and calculate taxes owed as a percent of adjusted gross income. So I'm sorry, I missed that step. So the adjusted gross income is the gross income minus total deductions. Not really how it works, but essentially how it works. It's close. So please don't use this for actually filing your taxes. This is just an illustrative example here and lets us write some code to kind of go about that. Okay. So taxes as a percentage of gross income and taxes as percentage of adjusted gross income. And we're going to display all of that. So calculate, display all the results. Okay, so we should get out a nice little like table looking thing. It doesn't have to be an HTML table, just, you know, taxes owed at 10%, this number, right? So for example, taxes owed at 10%, colon, you know, something here, on and on and on. 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37. 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37. 32, 35, and 37. 32, 35, and 37, right? Total taxes owed, you know, dot, 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 and then taxes owed as a percentage of gross income is some, you know, some percentage here. Oh, sorry, some, you know, percent, whatever that works out to be, and then as adjusted gross income. Adjusted gross income. Okay, that's kind of what that output's going to look like. Input look like, and then, you know, including their name here. Right, so we're including their name, so make sure you do those HTML special characters, taxes owed at each bracket. Okay, so using some arithmetic here, it's not the hardest thing in the world to calculate. It takes a little bit of thinking here. So they kind of show you here, right? So if your total income was 100,000, again, these bracket numbers were super old. They haven't updated their website in a while. But the first number here, you pay 10% of. So you pay the first 10% of 19,900. Then the money between 81,000 and 19,000, right? What's in between that, you pay, again, we're at the 12% rate now of, and then the money above that, right, you're paying at the next rate, the 22% rate. So if you land in the middle here, if you make $100,000 a year, you're only paying 22% tax on the dollars between 81,050 and 100,000. Right? And you can go check yourself here, right? You can give the taxable income is the adjusted gross income, essentially. It'll calculate the taxes for you. So tax bracket's a funny thing to say. That's your maximum tax bracket. That doesn't mean you paid all 22% just because you made $100,000 a year. Most of your income you paid 10 or 12% on, right? You only paid 22% on that last 19,000 or so, right? So your total taxes as a percentage here is going to be much closer to 10 or 12, right? The way that works out with the math, okay? That makes sense for the project, what we're going to look at? Again, using a form, you can use get or post, it doesn't matter. So this logic here has to happen, right? Right, for their adjusted gross income, their total deduction. So again, if they didn't enter a number bigger than that, go with it. If they said, hey, they've got $50,000 worth of deductions, let them claim it. You've got to itemize it and show it to the IRS and show them all your receipts when you file your taxes, but you can go ahead and claim all the deductions you want that you're eligible for. Use post or get, it doesn't matter. Excuse me. And my throat's starting to get dry from all this talking. Sorry, we're just about 8:30 here, so I think we're about right on track where we wanted to be. How you folks feeling? Does this make sense? Still with me? Well, let me flip these around because that's backwards. 4. Okay, cool. All right, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? We covered chapters 1 and 2. Again, I'll post that quiz a little bit later tonight, but I add that to my to-do here. I got a bunch of to-dos here. Shoot, PHP quiz chapter 1 and 2. I'll post to that one. I think I still owe my Java class a quiz. Oh, that's a bummer. Look at that cute little penguin. I love those backgrounds. Okay. So hopefully things were up and running. You got all your tools installed last week. If you're running any issues with that, let me know. I can definitely get you set up in the right direction there. Oh, and then the last thing we need is a rubric. That's right. You got to add our rubric here. So how do we get our points? So Amir, the ACE, and mirror the ACE. It's probably something with not the right URL. We can take a look and do a screen share in just a little bit here, okay? Either send me a message, we can set up something on Zoom, or we can meet on Discord. And that way you can share your screen and we'll take a look at it. All right, the last thing is the rubric here. Let me add our new rubric. So you get this point by point. So if you accomplish the task, you get the points. If you don't accomplish the task, you don't get the points. If you got some of it done, you can get some partial points here. Okay, so essentially missing is no points and complete is points. Okay, so we have 5 different criteria we're going to look at here. So the first one is the index.php page has the form for submitting name, gross income, and total deductions. Okay, 2 points just for that form. Then the rest of the points here are for our calculation page. Whatever calculator PHP page uses HTML special characters, the name input, and filter validation on the income and deductions. 2 points for doing that. Okay. Then we want to calculator PHP page correctly calculates the adjusted gross income, which means uses the standard deduction if it's larger. Right, 2 points for doing that. And then 2 points for the calculator PHP page correctly calculates taxes owed at each bracket and displays. And then 2 more points for the last one. So the calculator.php page correctly calculates total taxes owed and percentage of taxes, so taxes as percentage of gross and adjusted gross income and displays. Okay, that sound good? So that's the 10 points there. So 2 points each. So if you have it, but it doesn't quite work, maybe you'll get 1 point there. If you don't have it at all, there's no points there. So you'll know exactly how you're going to get your points for this project. We'll attach the rubric. So what I'd like you to do then, please also include a self-assessment using the rubric. Tell me how many points you got for each item. I put the rubrics together and people tend to ignore them, and I get confused sometimes. Not everybody, but some people do, and they're like, well, how did I do on it? And I said, well, did you do the things on the rubric? And they said, I don't know. So look at the rubric and score yourself. Tell me what you got for each item there, okay? That'll make life easier. So, and that's your last chance, right? Compare what you did to the rubric there. Okay, so we got project 0. All right, we got the rest of the night to work on the stuff. Amir the Ace, send me a message. We'll chat after, get you set up and running. Let me know. We should be good to go after that. Hopefully it's a pretty quick thing if XAMPP and NetBeans installed okay. All right, we can go from there. If you folks don't have anything else, we'll send a raid out for fun, because that's part of the fun of Twitch here, is that we can send some raids out to some friends and have some fun. Does that sound okay? Again, the raids are optional, just part of the fun of Twitch. Hang out or say hi, do whatever you want here. So here's our pizza example. We commit that and push. So all this code's out there. You're welcome to use any of it for your starting. If you do, copy paste the whole thing, just leave a note. So in your code, just leave a comment saying, hey, I started with this code here, and give me the URL. So you go to the repository, you can just copy that URL. Okay, go. We'll take a look. Send me a message. I can do some screen sharing. So say, hey, if you were copying out of the pizza project here, just say, hey, started from here. Use this as starter code. That sort of thing. Okay, just copy that URL, drop it in as a comment, and then we're good here. Okay. All right, so let me send a raid out. Let's see who's around on Twitch land. I'll put on my ending screen. So yeah, find me in Discord or send me a message, and we can go from there. That sound okay? Let's see who's around. We've got Maker and Crafting. If you want to look at someone doing, does a lot of stuff on, oh goodness, what is that machine called? It spins things, a lathe, spins things really fast and cutting them down. Or we've got Someone doing some dance, just a fun guy. Yeah, we can do the makers and crafting. We'll do that. So we'll raid Boyd custom fab, right? Yeah, we'll do that. All right, folks, you take care. I'll see you. Oh, I mistyped it here. Raid Boyd's custom fab. Maybe I can. Okay, now I can spell better. All right, well, however that way for fun. Hit me up in Discord or email, and we'll set up some screen sharing sessions, get you up and running. And we'll go from there, folks. You take care, and I'll see you around.